So today we're going to update my spreadsheet for all of my YieldMax ETFs. And that's right, all of my YieldMax ETFs. I own a total of 10 of them, and I have a spreadsheet for each one, and we're going to see where I stand on each single one. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So I have finally made a spreadsheet for each one of my YieldMax ETFs. Now I do own some in Defiance and Roundhill, but I do not have those in those spreadsheets yet. Those are still yet to come, but I have created a sheet for every single one of the YieldMax ETFs that I own, whether it's a small position or one of my larger positions. So I think this one's going to be interesting to see if I am in the green or if I'm in the red, and we'll look at each one and determine if I'm positive or negative in the position. So let's just go ahead and jump right into that spreadsheet. We got some new distributions to enter in from this past week, so we'll update those as well. Okay, so here we are starting right off with NVDY. Now I did not have this one previously, so I did enter all the information here just to help speed it along. I've entered in all the distributions, and I've entered in all of my purchases. As you can see, I have a total of 71 shares. My purchase share average is $25.17. Therefore, I have a total capital of $1,786. And my real share, or my adjusted price per share, is at $15.55. With the current price of NVDY at $16.26, I am currently a bit in the green. So therefore, if I were to sell all of my shares at the current price of $16.26, then I will clear a total of $50.36. But that's only if I were to sell the shares at this current price. But since I'm not selling, this is unrealized gains then, right? My distributions I've earned is a total of $682.65. But since I did invest a total of $1,700, I subtract that out of the capital I have invested, and therefore I have a calculated adjusted capital invested of $1,104.10. And that's how I generate the $15.55, because I take that adjusted capital, divide it by the number of shares I do own to give me that $15.55. Now for NVDY, they did pay out, so let's just go ahead and enter that value right here so that we can update that adjusted price per share. So the X date for NVDY was on 9/11, and the amount was at 0.6428. How many shares? In order for the shares to be eligible, they must be purchased before the X date, and that's why I entered the X date here. So all shares purchased before 9/11 I can count toward that distribution. All of my shares are before then, so therefore I can account for all of them, and that's a total of 71 shares. So now my adjusted price per share, or my real price per share, goes from $15.55 down to $14.91. Very nice, right? Now if I were to sell my shares at the current price, I would earn $96 after deducting my capital that I had invested, right? I would clear $96. Now, this field up here, what that does is that will average out the distributions that I have been paid. It will weigh the most recent a higher weight than the ones before, right? So in this case, I've got an average here, or a weighted average of 0.9386. So that is what I'm calculating as the weighted average. And using that average, if I was to get paid this amount, I would get my NVDY paid off in a total of 16 more distributions. So according to that, I've got a while, right? That's at least 1.5 years to close to 2 years, especially if I do start buying again, as my real price at $14.91 is under the current price of $16.26. So therefore, all that will do, if I do purchase, it will push this payout date further out. And so that's why I'm saying that it'll probably be a year and a half to 2 years from now before I get NVDY paid off. But if I were to sell it now, I would clear 96 bucks, right? Not a whole lot, but I would at least come out slightly in the green. So now let's take a look at ULTY. And here we are on ULTY. We can see that the current price of ULTY at $5.57. I currently have 150 shares. My average purchase price is $5.66, but my adjusted price per share is $5.50. Well, with the current price of ULTY being $5.57, I am currently green, because if I were to sell my shares at the current price, I would make a total of $10.37, right? Not a whole lot. But if I were to sell my shares, I would have made $10.37 off of this purchase, right? So not much, but at least I'm in the green. Now for this one, I'm showing a weighted average of about 0.0933 cents. So just a little over 9 cents per share. And it looks like it would be about 59 more pay dates before I can get my ULTY paid off. Now, since there's only 52 weeks in the year, that means it will be a little over a year before ULTY will get paid off. Now, what can help speed that up? Well, if ULTY does go below this real share price, then I can purchase under my real share price, which will then reduce the number of weeks it will take to get ULTY paid off. But I personally don't want ULTY down that low, so I'm okay with ULTY moving on up. But if it does drop, then I will be able to pick up some shares, and therefore not only the distribution will help reduce that adjusted price per share, but so will that purchase underneath this price will also help reduce that adjusted price per share. So in ULTY, we had the X date of 9/11 as well. And that distribution was 0.928. And how many shares are eligible? Well, anything before 9/11, and since 9/5 is before 9/11, I can account for all of those shares. So that's a total of 150 shares that are eligible for that payout. And that will be a total of $13.92, which then increases my distributions earned along with reducing my adjusted price per share. So instead of $5.50, it is now $5.41. So see, it's coming down, little at a time, but it is coming down. And that also reduced my payoffs down by 1. So instead of 59 payoffs, now I need 58 weeks to get ULTY paid off. So I've got a ways to go. And every time I do purchase, it does push out that payout date, right? Because every time I purchase, and if it is above that 541 here, then that will extend the payout date. But when the price drops below that 10 on the RSI2 and it's at the bottom of that Bollinger Band, I just can't help myself. I'm taking that as a price discount, and I don't want to pass it up while they're giving it to me. And next on the list is YMAX. Now, YMAX is a little bit larger position for me. I've actually got 758 shares currently at a purchase price per share of $18.66. Definitely higher than the current price of YMAX of $12.67. But my real price per share, or my adjusted price per share, is $9.95. Yes, love it. Since it is below the current price, if I was to sell those shares, I would clear a total of $2,062.49. Now, that is not on top of the distributions. That is the total that I would clear, right? Because those distributions are being used to help reduce that total capital invested. So by selling those shares and taking out the distribution that I have earned so far, I will clear $2,062.49 if I were to sell all of my shares at the $12.67. So there's always a plan B, right? If I ever got tired of it, then I can just get out of it right now and I would clear $2,000. Not a whole lot, but still I would clear $2,000 and be in the green on the play. So for YMAX, let's enter in the distribution, as that will reduce our adjusted price per share. And that ex-date is also 9/11, and the amount was 0.1321. How many shares? So therefore, all shares before 9/11 are eligible, and all of our shares would be before 9/11. So we have a total of 758, and we can enter in 758. Because those last shares that we bought right here were on 9/4, which that is the X date of the one before. So we could not count it for last week, but we're able to count those 8 shares for this week to help increase that distribution. So that's going to pay me out $100.13, which then dropped my adjusted price per share down to $9.82. That's what I'm talking about, right? Now, if I were to sell, I would clear $2,100, right? So you can see, just by calculating and keeping track of your adjusted price per share, or as what I like to call it, my real price per share, that helps you to understand where you really stand in the position. Now, if you are rolling your distributions back in, or you're dripping, then your distributions here would still show this amount, but you would be also adding in those purchases right here, right? Because you took that amount, in my case, that $100.13, I would then have to show where I purchased at a certain price a number of shares that would equal that $100. And you would get that information from your broker if you have it on drip. Or if you're just reinvesting it on your own, and $100 at a roughly $12 stock, you're going to get 8 shares, right? Because that's going to put you at about $96, okay? And that's $12, 8 shares, $96, and that would leave you with a little change left over, right? So if you're using drip through your broker, then it's going to be more of a fractional share. And that would be something similar to something like this. So you have $100, and I'm just using round numbers, okay? So you have $100, and you're going to divide that by a $12 share price. Now, I know it is $12.67, but again, I'm just using round numbers. That's going to give you 8.3333 shares, right? So your broker would show you at 8.33 shares, but if you did the purchase, you would be doing 8 shares. You could also buy fractional shares as well, but it's just up to you. Your broker, if you are using the drip, you will probably get it in whole numbers and fractional shares. So you'll have to look to see how many shares they actually purchased with your amount. And you would enter that into this purchase field. So although you are showing distributions earned, your capital also does increase because you rolled it back in. But anyway, so that's where I sit with YMAX, with my real price per share at $9.82. And moving on to PLTY. And PLTY, I have a total of 37 shares with a purchase share price average of $60.67. The current price of PLTY being $62.14. My purchase share price is even under the current price. But what is my adjusted price per share? Well, that is a 17.78 price per share. Very nice. Super excited there, right? So each time I get paid, that increases that distribution, which therefore decreases the amount that I actually have at risk. And that amount is divided by the number of shares, which creates my real price per share. So my real price per share being $17.78. But wait, there's more. PLTY paid out a distribution. So it's not $17.78. It's going to be lower. So it too has the 9/11 X date, and the amount that they paid was 2.3 $2.4410. That was a little bit less than I was hoping. I was looking closer to the $5 range, but I'll take $2.44. It's still better than anything else that I could make that money in. So now, how many shares? Well, anything before 9/11 I can count, and everything is before 9/11 on the share counts over here. So I can add all 37 shares are eligible. So 37, so that 1778 now becomes 1534. Oh, yes, yes, yes. That is awesome, right? $15.34 at a $62 stock. Yes, love it. Now, yes, I only have 37 shares. And if I were to sell those shares right now at that $62.14 stock price, I would clear a total of $1,731.61. Love it. Now, do note, this number is higher than my distributions. Well, how can that number be higher than the amount of distributions I've earned? Well, that's pretty simple. The stock price is higher than what my purchase average is. Not only am I making money from the distributions earned, but I am also making money off of the price appreciation. And that is currently. And I'll stress currently. Because if PLTY does come down and it drops below that 60, then this number here will drop as well, right? Because this number here is showing what I would make if I were to sell the shares at the current price. So of course, if that current price drops, so does the unrealized gain number here. So with that new distribution that we got paid out, that increased my distributions earned to $1,677, and it reduced my real price per share down to $15.34. I am happy about that. Well, let's just kind of keep it going. Now, some of these are not going to be so good, right? But we're going to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's just how we're going to do it here. So the next new one that I have entered here is SOXY. Now, SOXY, I got in when it pretty much first came out, and I bought a few shares, and then I just didn't buy anymore. I was just more focused on MSTY, honestly. So I did get into this one pretty much around the time that it first opened. I only have 9 shares in this one, so not a whole lot. That's right. But like I said, I'm showing all of my positions in YieldMax, whether it's small or large. I'm showing them all. So on SOXY, my current purchase price per share is $50.45 with my adjusted price per share of $46.22. And the current price of SOXY being $53.60 means I am again in the green, not only in my real price per share, but also in my raw purchase price per share, right? So therefore, if I were to sell my shares, I would clear a total of $66.46. Now that doesn't sound like much, but you also have to understand I've only got just under $500 invested into this one. Now we did just get a distribution from this one on 9/3, so I do not have anything to enter on this one. This one here pays out monthly, okay? It did pay out 52 cents this month. So this one's going to be a pretty slow mover, right? So I probably will not look to increase the shares on SOXY as it's only paying out about 52 cents a month. And as you can see up here with the average weighted distribution per share being at 49 cents, it's going to take me 93 payments before I would get SOXY paid off. Well, if this is monthly, if I take the 93 and divide it by 12, it's going to take almost 8 years to get this paid off, right? So that's why I don't have a whole lot invested into it, but I definitely would not want to buy more shares if the current price is above my real price per share, because that would just extend this out. but by buying below my real price per share will help reduce this number here as well. So that's just something to think about whenever you're punching your information into your spreadsheet and why this adjusted price per share is so important. And now let's check out one that I need to enter in. And this is for AMDY. Okay, now AMDY was one of the first ones I got into. I didn't know a whole lot about the YieldMax ETFs, but I saw people getting into AMDY, so I decided to also buy into AMDY. Okay, AMDY. So we'll just go ahead and enter that in right here, AMDY. And when I hit enter, it will give me that current price of $7.72. And that is the current price. And I can tell you right now that my purchase share price average is definitely not $7.72, right? Because this one here has gone down. Let's see if I'm still down, or if I'm flat, or if I'm actually making anything on AMDY. I've got my doubts. But let's just go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and enter in all the distributions and my purchases, and then we'll pick it right back up right here. All right, so fast forward here. Now I have all of my purchases entered. I've got the X date and the distribution per share entered over here. And all I've got to do now is just enter in the share quantities. But I wanted to show you right here, my purchase share price being $15.82 per share, right? Well, that's because I was buying pretty heavy at the start here, and I started at June the 20th. Around $17.10 was my first purchase of 300 shares, and a couple hundred shares at the upper $16 range, and then 200 more shares at the low $16 range. So that is why mostly that this share price here is at $15.82. Whew, ouch, right? With the AMD share price of $7.72, if this is all you see, and that is what I see on my broker app, right? On my broker app, I see I have 820 shares, and I see that I have an average purchase share price of $15.82. So if that's all I see that big red number that says I am down, right? And I see that the current price being $7.72, I'm not too happy. And I'm not feeling very good about my position in AMDY. And at that point, you're thinking, do I go ahead and just cut my losses and just get out of it, right? Because all you're seeing is those numbers on the broker app. You know you're earning those distributions, but it's not showing you what it's doing to affect that share purchase price, right? So let me go ahead and I'll enter in the number of shares for each of those distributions using my purchase points over here. So all those purchase dates I'll use to help determine how many shares are eligible for each of those distributions. And then we'll jump right back in. And there we go, right? Look at this. I entered in all of those eligible shares. So what did that do to my real price per share? Well, that lowered it quite a bit, right? I am down now to a total adjusted price per share of $8.95. Now, am I green? No, I am not green still, right? But look, $8.95 at a share price, and this is the last price of AMD being at $7.72. I am pretty dang close to that share price. My adjusted average being $8.95, I am only down a little bit, right? I've got $12,970.52 invested, but how much of it would I lose if I were to sell my shares now? I would only lose about $1,000, okay? So right there shows you I'm not blowing my account up, right? It is not going to get blown up if I were to sell AMD right now. Yes, I would take a loss of $1,000, and that is just because the current price of AMD being $7.72 and my adjusted price per share being $8.95, I would take a loss of $1,000. Now, if AMD moved back up to about $9, which it has been, right? If it would move back to $9, then I would actually be able to sell them and actually clear a little bit of money, right? But as I am still earning those distributions, that is decreasing this real share price, right? Now, since AMD does pay out every 4 weeks, that's 13 payments per year. Well, how long is it going to take if I don't do anything else and we continually to earn this average price of distribution right here of 46 cents? And that is what I'm calculating as the weighted average among all the ones I'm showing right here in my account, right? That will take a total of 19 payments. So if I take 19 and I divide it by 13 because I get paid 13 payments per year, that's going to take me right at about 1.5 years. Okay? So now, it has been a long road for AMD, right? I was up, I was down, I was up, and I'm back down again. But in 1.5 years, as long as AMD can continue to pay out at least this amount right here, that 46 cents, as long as it can continue to pay out that, I will have it paid off in 1.5 years. If it pays out more, which it has been, right? It paid 56 cents, it paid 54 cents. That only helps to reduce this number even quicker because this number, the $8.95, will decrease even quicker. So even with the position as trashed as AMD is, right? And don't get me wrong, this one here has just been trashed. It has not done well for me, but I see a light, right? Because guess what? Once this does get paid off in 1.5 years, assuming that AMD continues to pay at least 46 cents, I will get it paid off in 1.5 years. Well, what does that do for me? I'll tell you what that does. That means I will have earned enough distributions to have paid off and paid me back my total capital invested. And therefore, all my distributions from that point on will be free and clear, right? Free and clear. So in this case, that would be $446 right into my pocket as gains, right? Yes, I am earning all these distributions, but until I get this real price per share down to zero, all I'm doing is just paying myself back the amount that I invested into AMD. So the way I look at it, unless I sell the position, I am not making anything off of AMD currently, right? Because me capturing those distributions, all it's doing is pay me back my total invested money. But once that's paid off, and once that's paid me back my $12,970.52, then all of my distributions from that point on will be free and clear gains in my pocket, and I can then do whatever I want to with it. I can buy more shares if I want, right? As long as I do not go over the amount that they gave me, I will not have any additional money out of my pocket invested. And that is what is awesome, right? And that's where I'm at with MSTY. I am so close to getting MSTY paid off. And as you will see coming up next, you'll see that I am so close to getting MSTY paid off. But this here, when you see this number and you see that you only have this many payments left to go before you can get paid back, that is something that can get you excited. It can give you that bit of hope. Now, keep in mind, this is all off of this ETF continually to pay out a total of $46.10 per share, right? If this drops to 20 cents or 10 cents or anything like that, anything below 46, then this number, this 19 number, will increase. So none of this is guaranteed, but it does give you some hope, right? It does give you hope. So speaking of MSTY, let's just go right over and let's just get an update on MSTY. They did not pay out. Let's just get an update of where we're at. Here we are on MSTY. I did not make any purchases on MSTY, and we did not earn a distribution. So nothing here has changed since the last time we've looked. So with a current price at MSTY of $15.60, I have my real price per share of $2.12. And that's what I'm talking about. Look at this. 2 more payments of at least $1.73, and I can get my shares paid back. Now, granted, $1.73 we haven't seen in a few months, right? So that 2 payments may be closer to 3 payments or 4 payments, right? But that's okay. That is all utilizing this one here. And the only reason it's showing a little higher is because our distributions have been dropping the last 3 payments, right? Because the one before it, we were at about $1.47 and then $2.37, right? So in May, we were above that. But since June and on, we have been dropping down. And that's mostly just because Mr. has been dropping down. Now, if Mr. can get back on the horse and get moving on back up, then we could see some nice distributions again with MSTY. And just think, if I only need 2 payments of $1.7336, that's only a total of, and I can do a quick little calculation right here, of 1.7336 times 2 means $3.4672 is all I need. So a $3.50. That's what I'm looking for in distribution. If I can make a total of $3.50 more in distribution, I will have my MSTY paid off. Now that's only if I do not purchase any more MSTY. Because if I do purchase, then that will increase this 346, right? But it only increases if I purchase. I only need this amount no matter what, unless I purchase more MSTY. So if I can just stay quiet and hold off for about 3, maybe 4 months, I will have my MSTY paid off, and then I will be earning my distributions free and clear. But man, oh man, is it difficult when MSTY drops down and triggers my little buy points, right? As you can see, that's what was happening here. In August, I made some purchases, right? I purchased a total of 45 shares just in August. The price just kept dropping. I kept buying. So if I would not have done that, then this real price per share would have been even lower. And let's just see for fun, right? So I'm going to quickly erase this here, and let's just see what that real price per share changes to, as that will be adjusted. And we'll see if I didn't make any purchases in August, what would my real share price be? As I'm very interested to see what it actually would have been had I made no purchases in August. And I've deleted them, and there you go. That takes it down to 50 cents right there. But one thing I do have to change right here is my distribution as well. So let me go ahead and I will change that $4.75 to $4.30, right? Because that's all I would actually have during this period. Let's see what that ups it to at $4.30, 61 cents. That would mean that the next distribution, if we make at least 61 cents, I would have MSTY paid off, right? And that's what I mean by making those purchases really pushes out that date of getting MSTY paid off. Had I not made those purchases, I would be looking to have my MSTY paid off on our next distribution, because we have not seen a distribution under $1 yet. Not saying we won't, but it surely would not be below 61 cents for this next distribution. So part of me wants to kick myself for making those purchases. But what this has told me to be patient and to stop buying until I get this thing paid off. Because just for buying those shares last month, it pushed me out from getting paid off this month to actually getting pushed out an additional month, right? An additional payout. But that's okay. I made the call. I decided to do it. I don't feel like I did the wrong thing. I feel like getting those shares at those prices were good buys. But man, oh man, looking at this and just wanting to see this thing turn green would just be a very happy moment, right? Okay, so I took it back to where we're setting, and this is what we are currently at. So I am at that $2.12. But I'll tell you, after just doing that, removing those purchases from August, man, I am just thinking I might just need to set on my hands on MSTY for the next 2 to 3 payments, right? Because I just went from getting this thing paid off, this coming distribution, to now having to wait 2 to 3 payments, right? So after seeing that, it's definitely made me think twice about buying on those dips until I get this thing paid off. Once I get this thing paid off, then I can buy out those dips. I have zero cash invested of my personal money, that is. I would only be investing my gains. So I don't know about you, but that has definitely opened my eyes. But I think that was a fun little thing to do right there, just to see what would have happened had I not bought. And man, I would be getting my MSTY paid off in about 2 weeks. Huh. Yeah, kick myself. Anyway, so it is what it is. I now need about 2 to 3 payments before I'll get my MSTY paid off. And this time I will wait. Now there was one comment was, you're adding in your premium that you've been earning over here. Well, in my response was, that is money I'm earning using my MSTY shares, right? Because I am making a distribution by buying those shares. Well, why can't I also sell premium just like YieldMax is doing, right? They're selling calls to make premium and then paying us out in distribution. Well, why can't I also do the same thing on the shares that I do own, or for shares that I'm willing to purchase, right? But there was a comment saying, well, what would your price be if you were not earning that premium? So I think that's a fair question. So luckily I do have this button right here, and I can turn this off and it will remove the premium from the calculation and then give me my real share price here. So let's just see, what does that change it to? And there you go. If I remove all of my premium out of the calculation, that would mean I'm at a $3.88 real share price, right? So that is only utilizing the distributions. So for those who have not done any premiums or any options, right, or not selling options, earning premium, this is closer to what you would have if you had the exact same purchases and the same share counts that I have had throughout since August 23rd of 2024, right? That would put my real share price at $3.88. That is still a very good adjusted price per share. But as I said, I'm using MSTY shares to earn premium on the side. This isn't me just getting premium off of a different stock and then added it in, right? This is me earning premium off of the existing shares that I do own, just like YieldMax is doing. They are paying me with those shares that I do own. They're paying me out a distribution per share for allowing them to use it to sell calls. Well, I just did the same thing over here, and I'm just doing it on the side, right? So for me, I believe I should include that premium in my calculation. You can decide to add it in or not add it in if you are selling options. That is your choice, and that's why it is there as an option. So for me, my real share price is $2.12. All right, moving on to BIGY. And here we are on BIGY. For BIGY, I've got 11 shares. Purchase share price average is $50.62. My adjusted price per share is $46.38. with a share price of BIGY at $51.91, that means that I am not only green in my real price per share, but I am also green in my purchase share price average, right? So therefore, if I were to sell all my shares currently at this price of $51.91, I would clear $60.81. Not too much, right? But I, again, only have about $550 invested. So that is a total unrealized gains of 10.92%. Not too shabby. Now, BIGY is a monthly payer, and their X date was 9/3 for 51 cents. Just like it was in SOXY, this one is a monthly payer, and at 50 cents, it's going to take a while to get this one paid off. And that's another reason why I haven't really purchased more shares in BIGY. I also got into this one around the time that it did open, and it has done well, right? It's done well, but it just doesn't pay much in the distribution compared to some of the others. At a $46.38 real price per share, I'm doing pretty good here. Now to CONY. And CONY I've had for a little while, right? I got this one a little after the time that I had got into MSTY. This one here I've been in since November of 2024. So I have a total of 245 shares with a purchase share average of $12.21. So my adjusted price per share average is $7.67. And man, I'm so close to just about break even, right? So, but at a share price of $7.15 and my real price per share, $7.67, means that I am only 4.28% down unrealized gains. So I am pretty good with this one. With a $7.67 real price per share compared to my purchased share price average of $12.21, yeah, this looks a whole lot better. Now it says 12 payments and I can have this one paid off, but that's at an average of 63 cents. And as you can see, we are all over the place on the payouts, right? 73 cents, 53, 79, 34. So it is all over the place. But on average, if I get paid 63 cents or more, I can get this thing paid off in a year, roughly. So not too shabby at all. It's another example of looking at your broker app and seeing that you have 245 shares and that your average price is $12.21 and the current price of CONY at $7.15. All you can see is the red number, the minus, and how much of a percentage you are down. So all you can think of is, man, that was a bad move. But when you calculate that real share price right here, that changes everything. And then you can see where the light is, and there's the light right there, right? The light is 12 months. At this average price, I can get CONY paid off. Now let's move over to the last one on the list. And this is number 10. And this is SMCY update. You can see the current price being $15.40. My purchase share average is $14.39. So I'm actually doing good even from the purchases of SMCY. Now I only have 30 shares, but my purchase share price of $14.39 is less than the current price of SMCY being $15.40, means I am in the green. And as you can see over here, if I were to sell all my shares at the current price, I would make $30.40. Not a whole lot, but that is a green number, right? That is positive. That is money in my pocket if I'd sold all my shares. But I'm not selling all my shares. Well, why is that? Well, number one is I have not received a distribution yet because my first purchase of SMCY was just recently. I bought it on August the 29th. Well, when was the distribution X date? It was the 28th. So I can only count that distribution per share for any shares that are before 28th. Well, my first purchase was on the 29th. Therefore, none of these shares are eligible for this distribution amount, right? So therefore I have number of shares, 0. I entered in the X date, the share distribution price, and my eligible shares being 0. Therefore I have earned no money yet. Now once SMC pays out, and I believe it is in Group D, that will then have a distribution, and therefore when that does generate a distribution and calculates that amount, that will adjust my real price per share. So currently it's at $14.39, the same as my share price, $14.39, right? Well, that's just because I don't have a distribution yet. So I've earned no money to help pay back my capital at risk. But once I do, then you'll see this number here will be adjusted down, because anything I earn will bring this number down. And if the share price of SMCY here, where it's currently at $15.40, if it drops below $14.39 before that payout, I can purchase shares, and that will help to also bring this number down. Because anytime you can purchase shares under the adjusted price per share, that will help bring that number down. And to me, again, that is my real price per share. So for this one, I am looking at about 11 payouts at that average of $1.30. Now, it's an average of $1.30 because that's the only one that's shown up here, right? As I enter another one, then it will start creating a more of an average. Right now, there's only one, so that is the same number. But at that number, if we can make at least $1.30 per share each payout for at least close to 1 year, I'll have SMCY paid off. Unless I purchase more shares that's higher than that average, then that could push this time out a little bit further. So I think that was very interesting, not only just for you, but for me as well, because I really needed to see what this number was on all the ones that I've had, right? Some of them I haven't really been tracking. AMDY is definitely one. That one there, when you look at it, like I said, I saw this price difference. I see red on my broker app. It's just like, wow, that one's not looking so good. But then when you do the calculation and you find out what your adjusted price per share is, and you find out, I'm not actually too far off. I'm only 7.75% down. That's a big difference than being close to 50% down, right? So if you want to also be able to track your positions, see what your actual adjusted price per share is on the ones that you are into, and enter in your purchases with your distributions and any premium you've earned to help create what that adjusted price per share is right here, so that you can get a better feel of where you're actually at in your position, then you'll be able to see a link in the pinned comments and in the descriptions where you can buy me a coffee. And that will give you a link to this spreadsheet where you can then create the additional tabs as you need to track each and every one of your high yield ETF plays. Now, if you have a way of calculating that and you are tracking that on your own, by all means, please use it, right? Because this number here, that is what's going to help you sleep at night, even in a bad position like AMDY for me. Yes, it's still down, but it's not down like I thought it was. It's less than 8% down. Now, I don't want it down, but it's not that bad. So that, to me, helps you to be able to sleep at night. So if you don't have a way of tracking that, check out that link, buy me a coffee, and you'll get an email with that link along with the generating a monthly income spreadsheet link. So just for buying me a coffee, you will actually get access to 2 sheets, which I believe is a pretty good deal. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. And I'm going to end it off with a happy note right here, because for me, MSTY is my happy note. I almost have it paid off, and had I not purchased, I would have had it paid off this coming paycheck. So if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed and joined our group. And if you would, please hit the like button. It does help the algorithm, and it helps to push this video out to others who may need a way of getting a little bit of hope in some of these high yield ETFs. So as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.